Thank you very much for being with us on Sky News this afternoon, Mr. Jung. Jeremy Hunt, saying this is good news, saying that we should be celebrating. We're not in a recession, as many predicted we might be. Is that your view?
It's definitely good news that the economy is stronger. Actually, the government's actions don't really have that much to do with it. It's mainly due to global growth being higher and energy prices being lower than we were expecting a few months ago. And some of it comes from the government. But still, growth is looking dreadful. The UK, even with the new forecasts, we're at the bottom of the G7, both this year and next year. And the Bank of England's decision yesterday to increase rates further actually is lowering growth even more. So I think actually they are
explain that. Sorry to jump in there, but just explain that. Because obviously you spent 6 years at the Bank of England. They've made this decision to increase interest rates in order over the next couple of years to try and curb inflationary pressures. We may not see the results of that, according to the Bank of England, for a couple of years. Why do you think it's the wrong decision?
So it was completely right for them to raise rates significantly over the last months. But I think they're now overdoing it. So you raise rates, you slow the economy, you take steam out of it to lower inflationary pressures. That is definitely the right thing to do. But I think interest rates are now about 1 percentage point too high. And instead of doing that, we should actually lean more on some of the other tools we are already using or have used in the past, which are things like the energy price guarantee for households and for businesses. We know these tools work to directly reduce inflation facing businesses and households. And they can do the other bit that the Bank of England cannot so easily do just by raising rates. Similarly, actually, with food price inflation, the Bank of England has not, nor the government, neither of them have really provided a good analysis of what's happening there. So we need to have much more analysis of what is going on with food price inflation, and perhaps more policy action in these specific sectors could be done, and that could do the remaining bit of inflation fighting. So not just interest rates, also looking at price support.
Well, when you're talking about price support, what would that look like for the consumer, and how would that be paid for?
So, we already have an energy price guarantee in the energy sector, where basically the government commits to lowering energy price inflation, and that is paid out of taxpayer money. But we know we could recoup some of that money, or actually all of it, through a windfall tax on the energy firms that are making very high profits. So we could it's a kind of a distributional question there. And then on food prices, we know France has taken action to make supermarkets commit to not excessively increasing prices in order to keep costs low. It remains to be seen how effective that will be, but there needs to be more of this type of action. And that might even be cost-free, because it's just preventing profiteering in a time where inflation is very high.
So let me just delve into that a little bit. Who do you think the current Bank of England's policy is hurting the most?
So it's an important point that we know inflation, as it has occurred over the last year, is hurting low earners more because of the types of goods they buy. And slowing the economy too will also tend to hurt lower earners more. So by excessively slowing the economy, which I think the Bank of England is now doing, they were right to slow it a little bit, but now they're doing too much. They're again hurting low earners. And so again, a more balanced approach that doesn't just rely on interest rates, but also uses these other tools could be not just more effective. It could also be cheaper in terms of less growth lost and more tax revenues coming in. But it could also be fairer, because we're not just leaning on slowing the economy, not just leaning on basically creating job losses through slowing the economy.